What is going on, guys? My name is Lex. The video you're about to watch right now I recorded last week on my Las Vegas trip. We're going to be playing a 2-5 and 5-10 session at the beautiful Wynn Casino and Resort. But before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for all the support and the comments from my last video. I made a video about how I got banned from Magic City Casino. Pretty crazy story, and if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. But I just want to tell you guys thanks a lot for the support, the comments. I didn't make the video to bash or boycott the casino, but I just wanted to tell my story, what happened to me, how I felt like I was unfairly treated, and hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody else. So thanks again for all the support. It means a lot, and I appreciate it. So let's get right into the video. Hope you enjoy this one. Welcome to the beautiful Wynn Poker Room in Las Vegas, Nevada. We sit down with a 5-10 table and buy in for $10,000, our biggest buy-in yet. We're ready to play some big pots here for the vlog. First hand we're going to go over here, cutoff opens to 30. I 3-bet the small blind to $150 with ace-jack offsuit. We want to be 3-betting or folding from this position, especially whenever the big blind could squeeze us out. We make it 150, the big blind folds, and the cutoff thinks for a while and matches our bet, so we're going heads up here to the flop with around $300 in the middle, which comes out ace high. We end up down betting to around $80. My opponent thinks for about 5 seconds and folds. So we take down our first pot here at the Wynn, playing 5-10. Next hand here, early position opens to 30. We look down at ace queen of hearts on the button, a premium hand. We're going to bump it up here. We make it $110. Folds back to early position, who makes the fold. So no action here with our premium hand. On to the next one. We haven't gotten too much action yet so far, but that is about to change. Right when we look down at black pocket aces, we raise to $30 in middle position. There's two late position callers before the small blind, a pretty action player who's been getting in a lot of pots, 3-bets us to $180. It's always a beautiful spot when someone 3-bets you and you're in position with the best hand possible, pocket aces. We're going to put in a 4-bet here, but we have to decide what sizing should we go. We decide to go around 2.5x plus a little bit more because of the callers in late position. I put in a 4-bet to $510. The players next to act end up folding pretty quickly, and now the action's back on the small blind. He thinks for a while here, and it looks like he might be contemplating a 5-bet, which would be amazing. He started the hand with around $5,000, and I cover him. But eventually, after tanking for about a minute, he decides to make the call. We are going to the flop in a 4-bet pot with pocket aces here with around $1,100 in the middle, which comes out queen, queen, 9, rainbow. The small blind checks it over to me, and I think most of the time here I should be betting around 1/3 or a little bit smaller on this board, trying to get called by pocket pairs or even ace high, but there's really not many turn cards I'm too unhappy with seeing. It's a pretty dry board, so I decide to put in the check here. I don't think I can get 3 streets of value in a 4-bet pot on this board, and if I check back the flop, maybe he'll think I'm weak, and he might start bluffing into me on the turn and the river. So I check back the flop, and we're going to the turn, which is an offsuit 4. So now I'm hoping he might bet a hand like pocket 10s or pocket jacks. I'll call, and the river's a brick, and he'll check to me, and maybe I'll make a big bet, and he'll call me with 10s, jacks, or kings. So he ends up betting out here $600. So I'm going to stick with the plan. I decide to make the call for $600. No reason to raise after we check back the flop. With $2,300 in the middle, we're going to the river, which pairs the board again. It's another 9, and I'm expecting the small blind to check to me a lot of the time. I'll put out a bet of maybe $800 or $1,000, and hopefully he'll call me with all pocket pairs and maybe even ace high. However, that doesn't happen. He doesn't check. He also doesn't bet half pot or even full pot. He puts out an over pot size bet here. He ends up sliding out 29 black chips for a bet of $2,900. Alright, this is definitely not how I was expecting this hand to go. I thought he was going to bet around $1,500 and I was going to snap call, but almost a $3,000 river bet is super polarized here. But he just can't have too many hands that's beating us. He can have quad queens, he can have quad 9s, and he can maybe have a queen, but we double block ace queen, and I don't think he's 3-betting queen jack or queen 10 out of the small blind and then calling a 4-bet out of position. So there's just not many hands we're losing to here. He could be turning ace high into a bluff trying to get us off a chop, or king high into a bluff. So I decide after tanking a while, I'm going to put in the call. I want to see his cards. I put in 3 yellow chips to make the call, and he shows us the bad news. King, queen of clubs for flopping trips, river in a full house, so he takes us for a massive pot here. We started with $10,000 in our stack, and now we are left with only $6,000 in the first hour. Definitely not how we wanted our session to go. We're going to have to claw back here and try to get back to even. Not even 5 minutes later, the cutoff limps. I raised to $40 on the button with ace queen of diamonds. Now the small blind puts in a 3-bet to $250. Cutoff folds, and I'm not going to get my money back by folding, so I make the call on the button here. The small blind has around $8,000, and we have about $6,000, so we could play a pretty massive pot. The dealer collects the chips and puts out the flop of 10-8-5 with 1 diamond. The small blind continues here for a pretty small bet, $200, and I'm going to float here given the fact that we're so deep. I have some backdoor draws like diamonds or straight draws, and I can also turn my hand into a bluff if a scare card comes, so he bets 200 and I make the call, going to the turn which pairs the 10, so pretty good card for me, honestly. This is the exact card we wanted here. We can turn our hand into a bluff now. I'm expecting him to check to me a lot of the time, and I can bet pretty big here on the turn and the river representing trips, but he ends up betting himself again. He bets $450. I look over at him, and he just doesn't look like the kind of player that's going to be folding an overpair to me. Definitely a recreational player who came here to see some flops, turns, and rivers, so given the fact that I have no extra equity here, I end up making the fold, losing another $400. The small blind later told me he had pocket queens, so we were pretty crushed pre-flop. I play for another hour and don't pick up any notable hands here at 5-10, and the game gets really bad. All the recreational players leave, and we're only left with really tough pros, so I decide to leave this game and go back down to 2-5, try to find a better game, and hopefully win some money back there. Game selection is very important, and at the end of the video, I'm going to talk a lot more about that. So we're here at 2-5, buying him for $1,500 before we look down at pocket kings in the small blind, make it 20, the big blind calls. Flop comes queen 7 deuce, we check and he checks. The turn is another deuce. We decide to bet now. We put out a bet of $25. The big blind thinks for about 5 seconds and makes the call. The river is a brick, and now we want to make it look like we're bluffing here, given the fact that we checked the flop. So we put out a big bet of $100. He thinks for a little bit of time and ends up matching our bet. We show the pocket kings, and they are good. So we finally win a little medium-sized pot here at 2-5. Moving on here, there's a limp for $5. We raise it up to $30 with ace, queen, and later position. The big blind calls 30, and the limper calls. So going 3 ways to a flop, which we flop top pair on ace, jack, jack, 2 hearts. The big blind and the limper check it over to me, and we're going to put out a bet here, trying to get called by weaker aces, gut shot straight draws, and flush draws. I put out a bet of $50. The action is back on the big blind, who thinks for a while and makes the call. Now the limper looks at me, looks at the big blind, and decides to call as well. So a little worrisome here that we get 2 callers on ace, jack, jack, but I think mostly my opponents have flush draws or possibly gut shots. If someone had a jack, I'm pretty sure they would raise that on the flop, so I'm feeling pretty good about my hand. The turn card is an offsuit 5, shouldn't change anything at all. My opponents check it over to me, and I put out a bet of $150. The big blind folds, and the limper folds. So we end up taking down a pot here with ace-queen, finally making a little bit of comeback here, but we still have a long way to go. Next hand, there's a limp. Hijack action player makes it 25. I look down an ace-3 of diamonds in the small blind and 3-bet to 105, and he makes the call. So going here to the flop, which comes out 9-7-3 with 2 hearts. We flop bottom pair. I put out a c-bet of $80, trying to get value from all straight draws and flush draws. Also trying to get him to fold hands like king high or queen high Broadway cards with some equity. He ends up making the call for $80, so we're going here to the turn. The dealer puts out the 4 of clubs on the turn, and now I have to decide, should I keep betting here or should I check? And if he has an overpair like pocket 10s or pocket jacks, he's never folding. If he has a flush draw, he's not going to fold either. So I decide to basically give up here, put a little pot control, and I check it over to him, and he checks back. So I feel pretty good about the hand. The river pairs the 9. Against this player, I don't think there's any merit to betting this river. I don't think I can get value from many worse hands, so I check it over to him, and he puts out a really sloppy bet, a huge bet of $375. We are in another tough, annoying spot here. We lost $4,000 at 5-10, and it's not going too much better here at 2-5, but I still think through the hand. Whenever I bet the flop, he just called. The turn was a 4, and I checked it over to him, and he checked back. There's no way he's checking a set on the turn, and I don't even think he's checking in a 9 for top pair on the turn. So when the river pairs a 9, and now he's betting so big, $375. He's saying he's got a full house or trips, but he can never have a full house because he's never checking a set on the turn, and I don't even think he's checking a 9. So I think he can be bluffing here a lot with ace high, missed flush draws, or Broadway cards. So I get curious. I end up putting in the call for $375, and he shows king jack of diamonds for king high. I show ace 3 of diamonds for bottom pair, end up scooping down a pretty big pot here at 2-5, getting a little bit back from the hands that we lost earlier. For the next 2 hours, we did a lot of folding and really didn't win any hands here, so not going to get any more money back from this session. We end up heading to the cage, racking out, and booking the loss. Alright guys, pretty rough session there, honestly. Didn't go as planned at all. I'm really pretty unhappy with myself there, calling down with aces. I talked to a couple people afterwards, and it's probably just a fold, honestly, whenever he bets 2,900 there on the river. And really the big thing is that people in Vegas, most of these grinder regs or like semi-reg professional guys, just don't have the balls to just put it in on the river. I just don't think he has the balls there to bet $3,000 with jack high or, you know, ace king or something like that. So with all that being said, I do think I could have here folded aces there on the river, but the way I played it, it's pretty hard. So ended up dropping back down the 2-5 afterwards, not because I was down a lot of money, but just because the game was just really bad. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about game selection and how important that is. All right, so let's say the poker scene is like a pyramid, and the 1-3 and the 1-2 level is just the base of the pyramid. There's going to be the most games at that level, the smallest level there. As you go up, the pyramid is going to shrink, get smaller and smaller. 2-5, less games. 5-10, even less games. And then 10-25 and higher, sometimes no games at all. So basically what I'm saying there is that you're playing the 1-2 and the 1-3 level. You have so many different options to choose from when you choose games. So if your game's not good, you should constantly be looking around for better games. Look for recreational players, people who are drinking, people that look like they're getting in the mix. And if the game's full of regs, make a table change. If you're playing 2-5 regularly, you might only have 2, 3, 4, 5 different games to choose from, but you should still always be looking around. If your table's not good, try to find a better table. Don't just sit and grind at a bad table. But when you're playing 5-10, sometimes you only have one game, and that's the only option. And tonight at the Wynn, that was the only option, was a pretty bad 5-10. A lot of good players, not much action. So I dropped back down the 2-5, even though I was stuck like $4,000, and I was in a better game. Ended up getting a little bit back there with that ace 3 hand, and could have been worse, but we were in the game for $10,000 tonight. Ended up cashing out for $59.63, I'm pretty sure, for a little more than a $4,000 loss. So definitely not the best night, but could have been worse. I've definitely had worse losses, as you guys have seen on the channel. But if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below. Coming out with videos just like this, 1 to 2 times per week. We're gonna be back hopefully with maybe an Aria vlog or Caesar's Palace or the Orleans. Whatever we get into, we got about 2 more days on our Vegas trip here. So until next time, guys, I'll see you.